Hello everyone. I'd like to do a video today that I will entitle Murder in the Hospital. Since my time of being targeted, and especially since the FBI got involved 5 years ago, and it's hard to believe they're doing anything good after 5 years, but time will tell. I became aware that there are people that work in the hospital that use the same equipment that's used to target people out in the community. And looking back, I'm quite certain it's been used on me while in the hospital. But what I've come to understand is that they have people that work there that operate that equipment. They cause symptoms. They adjust those symptoms while a person's in the hospital. And when they're ready to leave, the people who target them in the community pick that up. They pick them up and they follow them back home. And from time to time, it's my understanding that they murder in the hospital. Now, what I'm seeing in the FBI and DOD contractors that follow me, they become increasingly sadistic. This equipment is often used to cause mental illness, and it can create symptoms of mental illness. But these agents, they're using it on themselves. And I pointed out some of my understanding of some of their psychology in the past in recent videos. And as they continue to entertain themselves in hurting me and rewarding and getting rewarded for doing so, they become increasingly sadistic. And these have, and I would say they're increasingly homicidal. I've come to understand that they can get people killed through DOD contacts by making a phone call to another location, and I wanted to talk here tonight a little bit about that, my experiences that make me believe these things. You see, I've lost more than one friend that has been targeted, and anyone who is targeted that knows others in the targeted community can say the same, that they've lost several friends, probably. I've also found that I've been able to head things off a little bit by exposing. I did a video here recently entitled Torturing Mom, and when my mom was driven into the hospital, I do believe they intended to kill her by putting a tip in with the FBI in Washington. It backed them down. And then I did a video here recently, and because my mom was not feeling well, she was at home, but just not doing that great, not regaining her strength, and she very quickly got her strength back, and she's doing very well now. So I think it has been worth exposing, so I shall continue. So I want to talk about a friend of mine. His name was Bob Kenny. He lived in Sebring, Florida, and we were friends forever. I think I was maybe 13 years old when I met Bob, and I'm almost 60. I'm 59. When I met Bob, I was 13. He was my teacher in a classroom in school, and that's where we met. He started a ham radio club, and I didn't know anything about ham radio, but it sounded interesting, so I joined. And Bob and I had been friends ever since. He's helped me in so many ways. As a youngster, he helped me get direction in life, and we've stayed in touch. And we stayed in touch via ham radio for a long time. And in recent years, instead of actually using a transmitter with an antenna and a receiver, we used Echolink, which is software on the computer for ham radio operators, and we kept in touch. So Bob and I talked every week on schedule for about an hour. So as I said, we were good friends, and I always appreciated Bob. A smart guy, a kind man, and I say that he helped me when I was younger. But I remember being around him then. I was just one of the children that he was helping, and he'd stay late after school nearly every night. And he'd bring us all home, and we all lived a long ways apart. And his car would just be filled up with us, and he would chauffeur everyone home. He was just that kind of guy. He just really wanted to help and help children at the time, and he had a very positive impact on my life. So, back in 2017, Bob's wife, Elsie, had taken sick, and there were heart issues and all, and she passed away early in that year, in the spring. And, Bob was lonely and sad because they did everything together for many years, for many, many years. So he was lonely, and I wanted to cheer him up because he gave me so much over the years. So for his birthday, I called ham radio outlet and ordered a transceiver, ham radio transceiver, and I had it shipped to him in Florida. Yeah, and he was really surprised. I was so glad I got to do it because I loved the man. He was an important part of my life, and he was feeling down, having lost his wife, doing his best to push forward and through the time of grief. And I wanted to give him something to do, so I had that ham radio transceiver shipped to him, and he put it on the air. And when we'd talk, he would tell me about all the contacts that he was making. He was a very good operator. In fact, I remember Bob, he would operate CW, which is Morse code. So you need a key to do that. He'd do it from his vehicle while driving with the key on the console. As a Korean War veteran, that's what he did in the back of an airplane flying search and rescue missions in Alaska. So he was a very good operator. He could send and receive Morse code without thinking about it. It was to him, it was like carrying on a conversation in the car. And so with this, the radio I had bought him, he drove up from Florida, and we went out for a bite to eat, and he bought me lunch, and he showed me the radio was set up in his vehicle, and he had the key on a little platform, and he was good to go, and just like his younger days. Needless to say, Bob expressed gratitude to me for that gift. He knew I wanted to cheer him up. He knew that was really my intent, and he expressed gratitude a number of times. And the FBI that follow me, I talked about the psychology of my stalkers in a previous video, how their top priority is to hurt me. And as they become more and more sadistic, they just can't hurt me enough. Right now, I'm getting hit with strong pain in my back. They know that I'm talking about my friend here, and I'm going to talk about how they hurt him, and they took his life. And they know that bothers me, and they want to hurt me more, because this is a great opportunity. They have a bully mentality, and they want to kick a man when he's down and stomp him and do all they can to just inflict as much suffering as possible. So, as I said, their top priority is to hurt me. That means that their biggest fear in life, and it's an incredible fear, is fear of my pleasure. So when they see a friend that I sought to do something for, something kind for, and they see him express gratitude, it's not something I get a big head over. It's something that I feel humbly grateful for that opportunity to help, that opportunity to say I love you, and make it meaningful. And in helping someone, gratitude makes me feel like I was successful. I helped, and it was meaningful. Well, the FBI can't stand that. They become very, very fearful. So, Bob was a very athletic kind of person. He was 86 years old in 2017. He played tennis. He played pickleball. He played competitive ping pong, where you're standing back from the table and really moving. He drove up here all by himself, just plenty of energy, just a very healthy person. In fact, his doctor told him that he was the healthiest 86-year-old that he had ever seen. Well, one day on the tennis court, Bob experienced some strong pain in his leg. He didn't believe it was an injury, but he didn't know what happened, and that stopped him from playing tennis that day. And even, I believe it was a couple of weeks, he went like that without getting a diagnosis as to what was causing the pain. But suddenly he became disoriented, and I understand dehydrated, and he got emergency services, and they got him in the hospital. They did multiple tests on him. And he kept telling them, my leg is really the issue here. That's what hurts me. They said, oh, we'll get to that, but we got to look at a lot of other things first. So the pain just continued in his leg. Suddenly they diagnosed him with cancer. They said he had a small tumor under his collarbone and another tumor in his stomach. I remember him saying to me, he might just not treat it and just look to make his life as a quality of life that it can be for the time that he had. They told him, if he did that, he would be dead in no time. So the only way to proceed is chemotherapy. Again, it didn't sound like the cancer was very extensive, but what really threw up an alarm for me, it was the same cancer that his wife had, multiple myeloma. Now, I don't know how popular that is. I haven't heard of many people getting it, but his wife had it, and she was cured of it, and had done very well. So suddenly he's diagnosed with the same cancer. Even he thought that was strange. How could that happen? It's just very unlikely. He was placed in a facility called the Palms of Sebring, Florida, and they began chemo on him. I remember him, saying that he felt very sick, and that's understandable. And then I talked to him like a week later, and he sounded stronger. His voice sounded good. He sounded of good spirits, and I was encouraged by that. And then the next week when I talked to him, he sounded a lot weaker. The FBI in V2K, in Voice to Skull, indicated to me through their surveillance equipment that it was over, that I wasn't going to be talking to Bob again. Now, I didn't know what to think of that, but I went to the bookstore and I bought a Christian devotional for him to send him down to him to encourage him. I know he went to Bible study every week. He went to church every week, had done it for a long time. When his wife had passed on, he still went to the multiple myeloma support group just to support the other people that they had supported together. He's that kind of a guy, just a very giving man. I'll bet you could not find a person on the face of this earth to say something negative about him. You could never find someone that didn't like him. he was just a quality person, very upbeat. Well, the FBI said it was too late for that devotional. I mailed it anyway. He never got to read it. Just the day that it arrived, I believe, is the day he died. And then what was very strange, the radio, it was, I think it was maybe 3 weeks after his death, the radio showed up in my mail that I sent to him. And the return address was his name and his address. And I have no idea how I got it or who had sent it. What I also found odd is that they let him suffer with that pain in his leg. It never went away. And that's what drove him into the hospital. That's really what drove him in. It never went away. A pain that they never got diagnosed. And normally in the hospital they try to make you comfortable. I don't know why they didn't with him. So I get the radio back, and ultimately I said to the FBI through their surveillance equipment, because they were indicating, as I put all this together, that it was them that initiated the communications with the OD people to get this done, to have him killed. And I said, why did you kill Bob? And they said, to hurt you, Jeff. To hurt you, Jeff. And they were entertained in doing so. And even right now, as I'm talking about Bob, they're entertained that they killed him. They're entertained and they're giving me pain in my back to add to it, because they want to get as much sadistic mileage out of it all that they can. Just a really, really difficult thing. And was Bob targeted? That's a good question. I don't think so. His life didn't show signs of targeting for the most part. I've have a number of targeted friends. I've talked to a lot of targeted people across the country, and I kind of got, I try to really look at a person's presentation objectively to understand what they're going through. When I say I don't think Bob was targeted, at the same time, when I talked to him, and I would talk to him on schedule once a week, things would come out that made me realize that someone was affecting him right there. And it happened too many times to be coincidental, and it happened over the years. And those that were stalking me would try to use my relationship with Bob to cause trouble. All various kinds of trouble. So it seemed pretty clear that when I was talking to him, someone was targeting him. And we're in communications with people up here in Connecticut. Well, I'm in Canada right now, but I live in Connecticut, in East Lyme, Connecticut. It became pretty clear that someone was targeting him. And I have come to understand that this is the way they do business, and they do kill in the hospital. I've heard from a number of people that are involved in these programs. I've talked to them through B2K, and they describe that they do kill and how they kill. And it seems like they like killing someone of prominence. As I said in another video, this equipment, the FBI shipped it down the line to Washington, D.C., and affected offices right up to the Attorney General, and entertained them. And this is part of the entertainment. So if they take someone that everyone knows and they murder him, well, it's more entertaining for them. And I think that's what happened with Bob. Now, how I got the radio back, I don't know. Did someone break in his house and get it and mail it to me? Did they use this technology on the family and have them mail it? But if the family mailed it, and I didn't know the family, but if they did, I would have thought they would have contacted me. What the FBI want me to think is, I bought him this gift, and in buying him this gift, it made him appreciative. And because of that, they killed him. So, essentially, I'm supposed to look at that radio on my shelf and say that I got my friend killed and feel guilty over it. Well, I don't. I don't. I have faith. And my God takes care of his children. And they don't go home until it's his time. And they go home by different methods. And if they go home by murder, then those that murdered them should get in trouble. And I'm hoping to get these people in trouble. They're only too happy to admit that they killed him. And recently, they tried to kill my mom. But I got that stopped. Next, I'd like to talk about another person. Now, this person was not in the hospital. Her name is Anne. A friend of mine, targeted. From time to time when we all get together, targeted people, she's there. A very kind, gentle lady, and lovely in every way. Last fall, I heard the FBI speak of her. They indicated that she was young in her stalking, meaning the people that were stalking her hadn't stalked her for many years, and that she wasn't supposed to be murdered for a while yet. And I can add parenthetically that that's the way these cases end, all of them. All of us that are being stalked are to be murdered in the end. And so Anne was not supposed to be murdered for a time. That's what I heard from the FBI. It had only been a few years. And the people that were stalking her, that was their comments, that she wasn't supposed to be killed for a while. Apparently, these agents contacted the people stalking her and told them that she was on the radar and that they needed to kill her to prevent from getting in trouble. They needed to, quote unquote, take her down hard. Taking someone down hard is the vernacular that's used to say drive them into suicide or some other means of killing them. But it means that they're to kill them. And they, because supposedly she was on the radar. I heard them talking, saying that if they just do nothing, it will happen. It was set in course. Now, when I was up in Vermont camping last year, I was around Anne, and there were people in V2K following me that were playing her name up very big. You know, just really playing her name up and talking about her and all these things. And I wondered why. I just didn't know. But they were speaking as if she was someone of prominence. And later on, I was camping in a trailer at the time. Later on, in my trailer, I had something that had her name on it. And they went on and on, you know, kind of like they were talking about a movie star. And that makes me suspicious as to why they might do that. And looking back at it, you know, I look at Bob Kennedy's death. I look at them trying to kill my mother. And I look at the situation with Anne. They want to get their fellow agents and those that they're working with They want them to focus on the murder that they want to accomplish so that they'll all be entertained by it. And I think that's what it really is. They want to kill someone to say, hey, we killed so-and-so. So when the murder takes place, they can all go, wow, hey, we killed so-and-so. That type of thing. I've listened to their comments and observed their behaviors enough. They are very sadistic and in a homicidal sort of way. So, as I say, when I was camping in Vermont, I heard them really playing Ann's name up a lot to each other. When I was camping in New Hampshire, way up north, where there was no cell service, and when there's no cell service, this Tetra Systems equipment does not communicate outward. So the people that I'm hearing from are right in the area. And someone up there asked me, in V2K, they said, what's up with Ann? How is it you know her? I mean, and they went on to say, we investigated her past and couldn't find where your paths have crossed. And I thought that was really strange thing to say. And I said, well, one time I was watering one of my plants. It was called a white Ann. And her name just kind of got tied to that, and it got toyed around with a bit. And that's where everybody suddenly kind of focused on her. But other than that, she's my friend, I thought it was interesting they said they looked into her. And it made me think, that person that's talking, later on I was thinking, was that person trying to make himself look like he was investigating and not looking forward to harming her? Or celebrating as one who helped to harm her. When I got home, my friend who stays with me, he said there was a woman here and she was banging on the door and she was, trying to get my attention and tapping on the window. He said, I didn't know who it was, and I know there's been violence here in the past, and I didn't want to, it was dark, I didn't want to go out. And I didn't know who it was right away. And then I got a voicemail from Ann, and she said it was her, and she was, she said, I hope I didn't startle anyone. She was apologetic. She felt bad about it. I knew that was not her normal behavior. I felt like someone, those following her, and maybe those around my home, had caused that. And I didn't want to bring any more attention to it, so I didn't get back to her right away. And then I got a voicemail from her that where she had said she was really sorry, and she sounded very, very upset, and she says, I hope someday you can bring yourself to forgiving me. And suddenly, when a targeted person, a friend of mine, is feeling that upset, I want to get to them, because that's how targeted people die. And I hear about everything in the background, and suddenly, she's believing that I'm very upset with her. And I called, and her voicemail was full. So I texted her and let her know, I'm not upset with you, but I never have been. I think you're a quality person. You're my good friend. Don't think I'm upset. Well, I guess that text didn't get through. So a few days later, I picked up my phone to call her just kind of suddenly, and the FBI were saying, no, not now. We're not ready for this. We're not ready for this. Don't call her. And I called Ann. And she said, Jeff, okay, just let me have it. Just let me have it. I hope someday you can forgive me. I said, I'm not mad at you. I never have been. You're a lovely person. Please don't think that I was mad at you. I'm not. And I try to assure her that is the case. I don't judge people over what someone's doing to them. I've seen enough of that. People trying to tear down a good person. In fact, if they're trying to tear somebody down it must be that they're a good person, because all the targeted people that I've met have been real quality people. The best. I mean, some of the best friends I've had have been targeted people. And I remember Anne saying to me, "How is it I'm on the radar?" See, I hadn't told her she was on the radar. But I'm suspecting that the people that were following her subliminally had her ask that. You know, they made her ask the question. It's the people on my end, the FBI, that lied to her people and said she's on the radar and they needed to eliminate her, meaning kill her. And that's what they were in the process of doing. And people, targeted people, often die from suicide. And it's easy to say, you know, I would never do that. And I feel that way. I've been close. And, you know, I know what it's like to be on the edge. And maybe I'm stronger for it. And I do feel like I would never do that. But when using this equipment, they can cause so much pain. I mean, emotional pain. They can add thoughts. They can add all kinds of things to make one's life so painful. And I guess everyone has their limit. So none of us can really say that that will never happen. We hope it never happens. And I hope my limit is high enough, having been abused so badly. And I guess maybe abuse, living through abuse helps a person have a higher threshold of what they can take. But I remember them saying something about causing her to feel like her world was falling apart. Now, I mean, that's just painful for me to think about. That anybody would be that vicious to take a kind and decent soul and cause them that kind of pain to be entertained. And to be entertained by saying, yeah, we hurt you, Jeff. We hurt you, Jeff. See, they were hoping that I wouldn't make the phone call. They were hoping that I wouldn't contact her. They were hoping that I believed everything would be all right. And then if she died, then they'd want me to be feel guilty. And I would. And that's why I went through the effort. Okay. So I think, you know, that story, I guess seeing my friend Bob's death, and it's highly suspicious, and others that I've known that have died, it makes me realize that it's worth making some noise. And when I made noise about my mom, you know, I put a tip in with Washington, and she was better, but still having a hard time. I did that video, and she was better right away. A lot better. She's doing very well now. So it's worth getting involved for sure. So the last case I want to talk about. After that issue with Anne, and I guess they had to back off. They couldn't kill her. I brought so much attention to it, they had to back off. They still want to be entertained. I have an uncle in his 80s, and haven't seen him in a few years. Uncle Glenn Simons lives in New Hampshire and also in Florida. I believe he's targeted, just from what I've seen, you know, or from what I've heard of his life. He suffers with some Parkinson's type symptoms, hearing loss, things like that. Could that be natural? Yeah, it could be. But I know that's what they do to me, both of those things. And other things, I just felt like it's reasonable to suspect, seeing as so many people are targeted. I mean, a lot of people are targeted, especially where the population is denser. Back in 2011, I remember those listening to me. I was around my Uncle Glenn, and that was the last time I was around him. but the way he talked, a bit of an accent, a memorable voice, and they mimicked him, and they have ever since. And they mimic him, and when they do, they say that's Uncle Glenn. So again, they've given him popularity, even though none of them know him, at least not the people around me. A few weeks back, I heard them say, hey, let's kill Uncle Glenn, seeing as he's targeted. I had hoped nothing like that would happen, but recently I heard from my mom, and my Uncle Glenn had a pain event, was taken in for medical care, and now they say he has terminal cancer, and he's going to die. I guess having some radiation therapy and things like that. But they said he was terminal. It seems to me like the same thing that happened with Bob. I don't think Bob was sick. And if he did have cancer and all he had was a little tumor in his stomach and a tumor under his collarbone, he would have never died that quickly. And it's pretty rare to have the same cancer his wife had. Well, I don't know about my Uncle Glenn. It's up in the air. I don't know. But to be on the safe side, I'd rather have people call me paranoid, overly suspicious, what have you. I'd rather be on the safe side and say something, make some noise here, and maybe it is just what these agents want me to know, that they plan to kill the man, and they want to take responsibility for it, and they'll want to say we killed him to each other. It's that type of thing. And when they do these types of things, they want me to know that they did it. It's important to them. They're very, very sick men. Okay, so I'm hoping, I just wanted to put those cases out there. As I've said, in my case, there's police involved. Now there are state police, and there's other police, local police, that have been witnesses, and there's a couple that have been a problem. So I do believe my case is going to come out. The FBI, it seems like they have joined in with the DOD people and have found great entertainment in torturing humans, and me being their favorite. So as I become suspicious that they're trying to hurt someone else, I want to say something. I want to try to expose that. Like I say, I'd rather be wrong. I'd rather look a little bit foolish than to not have acted when I could have, and something tragic happened. So with that, I thank you for watching. Until we meet again, God bless you.